Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. How's the day been? Show of thumbs up, two thumbs up. Right, pretty good. Okay, so I am very lucky to be hosting this esteemed panel of these two people that I agree with every now and then. Rama and Itamar are both awesome investors. They've been around the block multiple times. They know Saas, they know BDC, they know a bunch of other stuff. So throw any and all ideas. The idea for this is to be much more interactive than just listening to us droning on. So the format is going to be as follows. If you have an idea that you're either working on or are thinking about working on, go ahead, stand up, pitch the idea. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just describe what you're doing. Take a minute to do so. And then we're going to get feedback from Rama and Itamar on how you should go about validating this idea at low or no cost. Right? So is it worth it to spend the next decade of your life doing this? And how do you quickly do that without having to spend an arm of life doing so? Make sense? Good? Okay. All right. First volunteer. What do we got? All right. You put your hand up first. Let's go. You need a mic?
Hi, my name is Ashley Joshi. I'm a freshman at Berkeley. Imagine this. You're a hotel owner. You just spent $1,420 training your new front desk agent. Now that front desk agent has their first solo shift. They're going to the shift perfectly. Then an angry guest comes and demands for a refund because the room's dirty. So the trainee, the employee, first tries to respond, but then mishandles the situation and panics. Then tries to call the manager again and again. And then the guest starts to get more and more impatient, and ultimately the employee quits on the spot. This problem identified as part of a big operational challenge after interviewing 100 hotel professionals in June, and as working in the industry myself for 2 years, doing every position from housekeeping to houseperson to front desk agent to maintenance to cooking. And what I've done with my co-founder, who has 23 years experience in IT, we've developed a virtual reality training solution that with their patent pending techniques reduce employee training costs up to 90% for these hotel owners. We're working with top hospitalities across the country, and we're backed by two national hospitalities, and we're part of the Berkeley Stepping Committee. So I'd love to hear your advice to an 18-year-old and how I should think about in terms of managing the commitments as I'm considering taking a leave of absence. So I would love your advice there. Thank you.
Awesome.
Can you hear me now? Oh yeah, it's way better. So sounds like you're past the validation, but you said you're doing 100 hotels and you kind of heard the same problem again and again and again. So I would say if you're past the validation stage, and it sounds like you're still trying to get conviction on things like, wow, should I like drop out of school and stuff like that. So I would say to get that level of conviction, you almost have to think like a VC in terms of like, okay, how big can this get? Like, make sure you do your total addressable market exercise very well from the bottoms up and get the conviction yourself first. Forget about people like you yourself have to get the conviction this could be a multi-billion-dollar business, right? So that's one important aspect. Another obviously important aspect is understanding what the market looks like. What are people doing today? Are there other software solutions that can kind of compete with you, and how do you stand out? And I think the last piece, which is potentially connected to this sort of TAM exercise that we talked about, is really like spend time to understand what's the true willingness to pay that the customer would have, and whether the sort of margins for the business. I think there's could be a lot of service involved, but working through installing the software and helping people understand how to use it for training. Make sure that you have like sufficient operating margins for the business long term to again help create a big business.
I would just add, first of all, kudos for going first. And I would just add this doesn't have to do with validating the idea, but great storytelling and sort of putting us in sort of the driver's seat of what you're seeing as the opportunity. I would say though, to double click more on like what customer is this, what type of hotels, what segment. You also have great what we call founder market fit. You've worked in the industry, you've done some dirty jobs. So I would lead with that front. When it comes to validating the idea, I think you can sense for like it's sort of a like top two problem for hotel, or top three problem, or kind of like an annoying to like quantify that more. How many dollars are they putting people walking off the job, like you said, in these large hotels on an annual basis?
Okay, it'd be great to meet you guys after and hopefully get some more feedback. We want to make sure that everyone
Nice job.
a lot of people have heard. So thank you for kicking this off. All right, we had an enthusiastic hand right there, so let's do it.
My name is Rick Portillo. I'm the CEO and technical founder at Teamfuse. We help companies find gold in data by connecting to multiple data sources like Slack, Discord, Telegram, you name it. We extract insights in real time, and we help them get notified when there's high-stakes users interacted with them, such as an enterprise customer having an issue with one of their products, or when there's a potential one asking for pricing. We're currently working with Cloudflare, Milmodo, Crypto.com, Layer Zero. Jason Calacanis decided to invest on us last week. We're currently in due diligence. But my question is, how do we further to make sure that what we're building is going to make a difference for companies? Right now, data visualization is one of the things that we do really, really well. We don't see data as just tables. We see it as a story waiting to unfold at every level of an organization. But, you know, we deal with data companies all the time. What is something compelling that you have seen in a paradigm shift that we're currently overgoing right now?
Well, I might just ask, you know, in my head, the question is why now? What is it? Is there something about AI that's unlocking this? Is there some new insight? You know? I would leave with that. I mean, there's sort of a, it sounds like a good idea, but it also, to me, sort of like, why now? Why this guy? Why this team? You know, it should come out in the first two sentences that we kind of pitched.
Maybe mentioning that we prevent enterprise companies from losing $20,000 leads would be a compelling thing.
That's a good example.
Yeah, I would say just because there's a lot of pitches like that, right, that we hear as VCs, I think you have to, and it's actually a pretty big space, like because almost every organization is now making data decisions, tons of analysts, a lot of employees, especially in more technology enabled companies, are really consuming a lot of data to make their decisions. So this is pretty common. So I think the key here is really finding use cases that are universal and people can connect to, that you're doing so much better than what's available today. Because at least where you started, it sounded like more generic than something very specific. So I know it's kind of, yeah.
Just one thing to add there is like, I think what these guys are saying, echo that. And I think one thing that's helping me validate a lot is who you selling to, is having that person. Thank you. Good stuff.
Thank you for this opportunity. Basically, what we're doing right now, I am an architect of this design office. So the product we're currently doing is the instant construction estimation for these real estate developers and contractors. We're not just happy with where we are, so we wanted to know about these very traditional and fragmented market. What is the best way to actually connect the players together? These are like where we want to go. Not sure like what is the best way to actually get all the players together so that market is not so much fragmented anymore. So that is my question.
Can you explain the fragmentation a little bit more? So there's architects and then what?
Yeah, so basically right now I'm serving not just only the real estate developers, there's the contractors. Contractors have probably subcontractors, and the subcontractors work with like hundreds of different suppliers. And you can see it's a very long value chain. And then to bring all the players to actually like all of them using the same standards so that we can actually streamline the whole process instead of every deal is unique. That's what we're trying to do here. So,
Have you ever heard the concept of market network?
if you mind me explain that.
So in the market network, you really have multiple, stakeholders on the supply side, right, delivering the service, sort of working together to deliver a product or a service to the end customer. And in that kind of dynamics, you want to find the right entry point, whether it's the contractor or the subcontractor, that is actually very motivated to put your technology, your solution in front of all the people that they work with, and kind of create this virality, if you will, on the supply side. So the contractor sends the subcontractors and so on and so forth. So just to give you an example, I have a portfolio company called BuildMass. They're in the construction AI space, and basically what they do is they put a QR code at the job site. So when the subcontractor comes in, they scan the QR code and they get all the plans as they apply to them, and all the instructions and all the things that they need to do, and also how they will be measured and successfully, finishing the job. And the person that's mostly pushing that is the general contractor, and the subcontractors are sort of on the accepting side, but like they're happy with it because it lets them understand what it means for them to kind of get to completion. So you really have to find a player in that sort of network that has the highest motivation to introduce you to the other players. Yes.
I think that's great advice. I would also say, look, it comes back to problem statement for me. Like, when you pitch this, I don't know who you're solving this problem for. The architect, is it suppliers? How many dollars is it saving them a year? We try to quantify those things and be more clear about who you're solving what problem for. Yes.
Check out a company called HomeBot. There's a gentleman by the name of Ira something really good, last name, but he actually started a similar company and yeah, reach out to me after. Okay. I will get to this side, but I don't see anyone here. All the brave souls are on this side.
Hi, I'm Lisa Fay, founder and CEO of Clarity, the app for your love life. So I built a relationship wellness app, and up until now, there really hasn't been a go-to destination for all your dating and relationship quandaries. And so I started this company because I needed so much help in my love life, and I don't know where to go. So we have a 24/7 relationship hotline that we just launched, where people are able to dial in and speak to relationship coaches, sex and intimacy coaches, astrologers, and psychics on demand 24/7. We also are centered around community. So we have a Reddit-like community that's dedicated to talking about your love life and getting expert advice and guidance. And we have an ever-growing content library of over 500 lessons covering everything from conflict resolution, navigating breakups, the science behind falling in love. This is all in partnership with many of the top experts from all walks of life. So my question is, we just got over 11,000 organic downloads and we've made our first 10 grand. So how much traction do you really need to get funded by a top tier VC? I understand that a lot of VCs, I haven't started raising it, I haven't got any investors, we're completely bootstrapped, but VCs usually say, okay, we need to see a lot of traction. So how much is enough? When should I come to you?
Well, great job, great pitch. I would say that, look, there's two types of traction at least, right? One is usage and one is dollars. And you have both, but you may have like sort of B+ on both. Like try to be A+ on one of those things. So maybe that means you monetize later, right? Is that cheesy meme from Silicon Valley, like no revenue? There's some truth to that, because then now we start measuring you on your revenue scale, which is subscale. But if you had maybe 5 times as much usage and it's free, that's actually more interesting. People are spending time on this platform. So I think, in some ways at this point, maybe picking one or the other versus sort of average.
Yeah, so it sounds like, a direct consumer play with a mobile app or, web-based service. You're right. The majority of investors are not going to really invest unless you have significant traction. There's something about consumer where it's like the world of having once pre-traction. Everybody's looking at this like VC saying, hey, once you get traction, like call me back. And then when you have traction, everybody wants to jump in. So I think, first of all, just so you know, there are investors that do consumer pre-traction, right? Just based on, significant validation of the idea. And then just trying to more directly answer your question, I think mostly what would help you most is not necessarily just pure numbers, but a lot of momentum and velocity. So there's a huge difference between say, okay, we got 10,000 users over, a year versus we opened up shop last week and I've got 10,000 people that really signed up, right? So, so it's about momentum as much as it is about numbers, right? And then I would say there's three main components that you want to show, which is top of the funnel, like how many downloads, how many kind of users are trying you. Then life cycle, right? Engagement, are they and retention and all those things, and then monetization. Most investors in the consumer space, I've done a bunch of consumer myself, they probably think about that in that order. It's like, are you getting top of the funnel traction? Because if you're getting a ton of that, then we can kind of figure out how to do the rest potentially. And then once you have the customer, are they engaged enough? That's kind of the second big. Then monetization is, if it's a mass consumer play, typically comes last in how people think about it at the early stage. So you want to, I think, echoing what you said, you want to stand out on one thing first, and the thing that really helps standing out for first is that of the funnel, like it's getting a lot of dollars.
Yeah, and one thing to add there is if you are looking to raise outside of institutionals, angels who've been in this space, like Match.com founders or any of those who know this space inside, would make a great sort of first check. Yeah. All right. Back left, and then.
Thank you. Our idea needs a lot more validation, not as far along as the other one of these products. Just a quick question: do you guys have a technical background or no? So I know how to present my product. Yes. Okay. So we're building a competitor to Jupyter Notebook. We were previously working on another company. We had some internal engineering issues, so we built a tool for ourselves, and then like quit that old company. Now we're working on this full time, not full time, but this is what we're working on now. It's basically Jupyter Notebook, but solves a lot of the main pain points that people have when using Jupyter Notebooks. It's been difficult to validate, to talk to the right businesses who might want to implement this in, and like reaching out to those people. It's just difficult. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on validation and what that would look like as well.
Look, I mean, you're servicing a huge market of data scientists, engineers, a lot of whom might be students and people that will be willing to give you feedback for free. I mean, you don't have to have an enterprise sales force to actually go out and find a couple hundred people that would agree with you about all the shortcomings of Jupyter Notebooks. And do it online. Get a voice on Twitter or wherever it might be. Create a drumbeat, create a following of those people. It has to be some sort of platform that you create for yourself to kind of validate those ideas in the ether, and then bring those people to meetups and then sort of get the ball rolling. But it starts with something organic.
If the data scientists are using your product or potentially they like your product, if they want to use it, then I think at the end of the day, the enterprise will follow, right? It's like these kind of developer tools, developer platform type of things, they often work from the bottoms up, like bubbling up from the people that actually use it, who kind of come to their boss and say, like, video engineering saying, we want to use this because this is the easiest thing for us to get our job done. So, I mean, you could do product growth here, where you're actually starting with the users, and then kind of when you have more and more scale, then you can go to the enterprise and say, okay, like you already have users using this, now you want to buy this and potentially replace you.
For prescribers that focus on cash price medications. And so, well, the problems that we solve is, when patients pick up medications that are too expensive or not covered by insurance, or they just want to keep it private. So just like, no. So right now we've launched it in May. Since then we've been growing at like 50 to 70% month to month. We have like 350 prescribers that are subscribed on the platform. And we see about 300 scripts a month now. We're about to close our pre-seed right now. So going into the seed round, which we plan maybe like 4 to 6 months, we want to know what you guys would prioritize. Would you guys prioritize continued growth in their prescribers, continued growth in scripts, would you prefer us to start monetizing the scripts with the agreements we already have in place for transactions? Thank you.
That's a tough question. Look, I'm not an expert in your field, but I would say between pre-seed and seed, I think it's about focus, right? And I don't think it's about milking the current customers. It's about continued growth. If I had to pick one, not knowing your space, but to me, it's about continued momentum, like we were talking about earlier, and to show that this is repeatable. Right? Are these all friends and family so far, or can you actually get out there and show the data? That shows that you have gotten out there and gone into different geographies, different types of customers. And I think, that type of, top of funnel, like we were saying earlier, and repeating that rather than going back and sort of expanding your existing customer base. Hopefully that happens as well. So maybe we can get both, but I would pick it first.
Yeah, I would say there was a yellow flag for me in something that you said, that you just raised the pre-seed and then 4 months from now you're going to raise the seed. So something there is, you can think about fundraising as a continuous kind of, like first year or two, I see founders do that where they continuously just raise. But I think if you kind of have very clear goals and targets that you believe are right for the business, forget about what VCs fit. It's like, your business best. So by having, internal goals that say, okay, when I reach this, this KPI, whatever that is, then it should go out fundraising. I think that will help you. And then you can take those and validate them with VCs in your space. So the idea is, instead of saying, hey, we're going fundraising, it's like, hey, let's grab, lunch, whatever, coffee, and then you kind of, you can tell them about the business and say, hey, where do you think we need to be to raise a seed round? I was thinking X. With the explicit, concept, we're not fundraising. We're trying to get feedback, right? And when we think we're ready. And I think that's the way to go about it. And kind of 4 months from pre-seed to seed, typically that's not what I see. Typically that's more time to get to that goal.
All right, any earlier stage pitch? Early?
Hi, this is Vinicius. I sold my company to Banco Santander back a few years ago. My co-founder, we're from Brazil. We were discussing we came to Silicon Valley to find a new idea. We wanted to go back to the entrepreneurial path. And an idea that we were discussing is something that we had this problem back in our company. As a Robo advisor, we offer not only the Robo advisor service, but we also had consultants that would help the clients to find the best investment for them, because some of the richer clients wanted that. And we had to train the sellers like to sell our product again. Can you hear me? It's okay. Yeah. So we had this fun training. There was like a lot of time involved to train like the new sellers. And if the seller didn't perform, we'd have to fire them. And we were losing money in the middle of that too. So we were thinking about how can we maybe use an AI, okay, that will like listen to the calls that the seller is going to make. And the AI will be trained to respond to that in the training program of the company. So think like I'm like the head of sales, okay? So I have a script like GPT, etc. And then I input like through prompt engineering, like I want my trainers, my sellers to be trained through these protocols. So the AI listens and goes and it gives like the feedback to the customers. Okay, you should be doing these instead of that, and etc. How would you go about validating that idea?
Yeah, this is a classic sort of enterprise type of product. So probably the best way to validate is the good old talk to 50 to 100 potential customers. In your case, that would be, CRO, VP sales, whoever is in charge of sales development in a company. This is, by the way, a very interesting category. A lot of companies kind of chasing what people call now the sales co-pilot, right? Essentially. And I think it's real. And I think what you hear from customers most is that it actually helps most with training, right? When you're onboarding new salespeople, because that's when you can get them up to speed to actually be productive and sort of hit the quotas in a very short time frame if you do it. So just like a word of warning on like I probably see when you start trying to do those kind of sales co-pilots. And I think you have to have an edge or a very specific vertical focus. So don't just like
You could start by interviewing everybody, but then you probably want to find, maybe in financial services, like where you could do something that's more custom, kind of solve the last mile problem for that area and focus on it.
Yeah, I was just that I caught, I guess, a yellow flag to use Itamar's term in what you were saying when you talked about robo advising high net worth clients. Pick that problem and make sure that there is an intersection there. Like intuitively, a high net worth client like Mayank, I don't know if he wants a robo advisor, he wants to be more hands on. So I would just like maybe double click, because we come in massive markets around financial consulting and every human being, and pick a demographic, pick a geography, pick a use case, and really ask yourself and ask customers very specifically if that is real, because otherwise you're going to get vague advice and vague validation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good luck.
Early stage. Okay, sir, all you. Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
So I'm working on an AI-powered misinformation detector. Nowadays, a lot of our generation spends a lot of time on social media, and with these new reels on pretty much every platform, YouTube, Instagram, even Twitter, there's so much misinformation that creators are putting out there, and social media companies don't really have this need to verify every single bit of information out there because their goals to have creators post more and people consume content more and stay on the app. So I'm trying to build a live detector. So as a user scrolling through their reels, the AI detector would be analyzing the information in real time and then give the user a push notification if misinformation is detected. And I'm trying to decide like my initial customer segment I should go after. So wanted to like hear any input you guys may have on how I can go about validating the need for this idea in the first place.
Spend some time thinking about this problem. It's a huge problem. So I think you're mining in the right type of cave, so to speak. The thing that I would search for is where the dollar is here, and it's probably not somebody trying to think about their own reel, but it's actually the brand that might be behind the reel, right? That's being misrepresented, or the political campaign that's being misrepresented, and those folks might actually pay something for brand damage. Right, so think about is it actually the user, or is it actually maybe the brand or company that it might be getting affected by this? And then that I think would follow the money trail a little bit and ask that marketing department or security department or trust and safety department what they're doing about this problem. Is there a budget for this thing? And I think just following the money trail a bit would be the first step I would follow.
Okay, thank you.
Be exactly my advice. Actually, also have experience in this space, and it's kind of very disappointing that this is a huge global problem that we have misinformation and deepfake. And most organizations and most folks are just not willing to pay to solve the problem. So find the folks that are willing to solve the problem. The social networks are not going to do it. Media companies are typically too poor to actually afford being able to check for that. So you have to look in areas where like you said, where the money is probably more on cybersecurity or trust and safety automation, stuff like that. That's probably where there's more budget for this, unfortunately.
One way to do this would be to list out the pain point. So in my previous company, we just said, hey, this is a pain point that we think exists. We put out Instagram and Facebook ads as banners, and you just see like who are the people that are clicking and coming in, and why are they clicking from the shop and check out. And if you start to see a pattern of the kind of people that are coming in, kind of demographics or title jobs that are consistently coming into a place, you'll both have unlocked kind of a little bit of a distribution, but also more importantly, who's this a pain point for? How much are they willing to pay for it? And then go and interview with people and be like, wait, we're in closed beta. In order to give you access, I want to understand why this is a pain point for you. And between $20 a day, and run it for a couple of weeks, it's definitely cheaper than spending the next decade, right, of your life. So do that. It's well worth it. And you can connect with hopefully 20, 30 people and figure out at least directionally where to start poking. All right, early stage. Okay. What do we get? You want to project or? Okay. Anything, lady?
I'm already founder of a cybersecurity company. I was a visitor student here in Berkeley during the summer, and our team tried to solve attacks that companies spend a lot of money. We want to find a way that isn't data, and suggest what the people first and be able to have better visibility with attacks. So with that said, right, I used to live in the US for like 30 years. And I'm more familiar with the US pricing structure, how to charge customers here, and etc. In Europe, this can be very different. So based on you guys' experience, what you guys seen as far doing validation? We are very early stage, 8 people, 8 months, kind of. How would you charge customers? Right now, it's like in Portugal and Spain, we charge one way, and right now in Norway and Sweden, we have different pricing structure. How have you guys seen that successful? Or is there any book or document you've seen? Thank you very much.
I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to seeing at the end state, you could do some, at least back at the end of value engineering exercise that would equate to, okay, you're gonna save this much money off a program that you have, or you're gonna be able to free up X amount of time for your employees because now they're like much more productive and you're automating stuff, right? So at the end state, you have to be able to value engineer. I think the exercise that you could do is try to walk back from that. Like at that end state, assuming that your product does everything that it's supposed to do, then what would be the impact on the customer and what would be the exercise that you do to quantify it into dollars? And you don't necessarily have to do it super early, but because you're asking about willingness to pay, asking about how much the customer will pay, that's what how I'm going to approach it, right? Are you going to save them 5, bodies in the ground that need to do this and they can go fix other things? Are you, I don't know, I have a portfolio that catches fraud in bug bounty. They can go to a customer and tell them, look, you're spending $10 million on a bug bounty, cybersecurity, right? There's all those hackers, researchers that are basically replicating again. Now you can save 20% of your budget to get to some of the bug bounties, and they go to the customer and say, hey, you just saved 200K and like pay us half 100K, and they pay, right? So
I would just add, I would challenge your assumption that it's got to be different for Europe and here. Like, I'm not sure that that's actually the case. In fact, if you were pitching me and telling me the pricing for Europe, the pricing for the US, a huge head scratcher for me. I think usage-based pricing is sort of the hot topic in software, including cyber. So instead of seat-based or endpoint-based, maybe that's an area that it's well documented online. Maybe it's worth digging into.
A somewhat dumb thing that we did in my previous company was we kept upward pricing until people refused to buy. And a lot of prices they actually because yeah, it worked. Right. This number has been patient. Right. So over $60 billion worth of government contracts to completely unanswered each year. And my initial borrower, yeah, we tell you about Rifted. So over the last 4 years, I've owned a software development company and we've won it for and executed on various government contracts. And we hated the process. The process is super time consuming. The tenders are like exceedingly complex. When you do some execute on those contracts, sometimes the agency can we didn't know that on the procurement officer side, they had already challenging time evaluating some of these very long bid responses. They're receiving over 25% of the bid they receive unresponsive. And this process is exceedingly time consuming for them as well. So we decided to build Rifted. Rifted is a platform which reduces the time that both suppliers spend writing their bids in response to these tenders. It helps them find these contracts by matching them using our AI-powered matching algorithms. And on the procurement officers side, it helps them to cut down on the evaluation side by showing them exactly which bids are uncompliant, as well as using the data to forecast for procurement in later years. Right now, we focus on creating a beachhead market in the Caribbean region because many of the governments they have procurement systems, and we are seeking to expand into other emerging markets with similar market dynamics. Market for this opportunity is huge because procurement is
maybe my goal turning the process. So we have high level of interest side with various procurement agencies, and I'd love to get your feedback on what you think of this idea. And at what stage do you think we need to be to bring this either? Thanks.
It sounds like a huge problem. Look, I think there's for West Coast VCs a strong bias against selling to government as your initial market. And maybe that's something that should be challenged, but it will be difficult for you to convince people, at least West Coast VCs, that should be your first market. Look, having said that, it sounds like a really big problem. I don't know enough about it to kind of really opine on the details of the Caribbean market, especially. So I think maybe as you talk to investors, maybe convincing them that this is a global problem, and maybe even throwing some North American government, leads to kind of show, at least if you're raising money here, that there's a local problem as well.
Yeah, I have a portfolio company in the space called Proposal. So I actually know it pretty well. I would say there's a lot of issues there. Like when you're looking from the outside, it's really sexy and a big problem, but actually when you start, slicing and dicing stuff, you understand that a lot of RFPs, RFQs are actually already they were written so that this specific party would get the contract, and there's so many types of these. So what I've seen, at least in the US, is a better focus. So in my portfolio company's example, Proposal, they're really focused on defense, right? All the folks that are trying to serve this deal, right? Department of Defense, and similar sort of defense related entities, just because you have to go very specific. So I think if you talk to VCs that understand the space here pretty well, they would be looking for that specific, like what specifically are you solving in what area, and who exactly is the customer? Is it more the government, or is it more the contractors that are trying to? And I think you're probably going to go a longer way because like here, if you're more using this with the contractors, they're paying, so you're helping them get the job.
All right, we're almost at time, so last question. You guys want to wrestle and do this next?
Hi, my name is Bhakti Sharma, and I'm actually helping a non-profit organization put together a generative AI product that helps companies for putting together AI tools to put together AI tool response. So basically, the responsible AI analysis. So my question to you is, I understand that VC funds and all there's a non-profit fund that is available sometimes for non-profit organizations now. But my question to you is, what kind of validation would you need from these non-profit organizations to get them ready for those kind of funds?
You want to raise venture capital, but you're building a nonprofit organization.
Yes, it's for nonprofit. That's like for profit base, it is like understandable, but for non-profit, because it is for the for the community, for the good of society, I would say that. So that kind of thing in mind, but that's a challenge. What kind of validation would you like to see from our end to get that kind of funding?
Yeah, I mean, an odd example of this, but it's almost like does not compute, right? Like I don't think we would ever invest in it because that's not what these our investors are looking for. So it's fine not the answer you're looking for, but maybe it means you're going for grants and you're looking at different sources of capital. Maybe there is a sidecar of this company that is sort of a commercial entity, and there's a nonprofit. I'm not sure, but that's my initial reaction.
You should be looking for impact investors. I mean, like here in Oakland is an example, and there's probably dozens more. Those would be the right people to fund this because they measure their success based on the impact the project does as a nonprofit. And at the end of the day, for VCs, unfortunately, we're just focused on making money for investors. So I wouldn't even target VCs with something like this. I think it's not a great use of it. Family offices who have a philanthropic arm would be good. Philanthropic entities that impact investors, but have to be very careful about people who talk about sort of double bottom line. They still want you to make money. They just want they have two agendas, like making money and making it. So but you want people that actually really want, like, making sure we're making an impact. So not double bottom line investors, but true impact investors. And there's hundreds. There's lists, you just have to find them, and they're the ones that are going to be most responsive to.
All right, we're gonna be here a couple more minutes. I want to be respectful of their time and all of yours as well. So thank you. Really appreciate all the brave souls who were able to pitch their idea and get some feedback. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you.